we were in our little meeting yesterday. I mean, it was big. A meeting of the minds. It was Lauren and Daria and me. And I think Ron might have been there. Were you there, Ron?
No, I wasn't.
Josh was there.
I knew something was missing. And Lauren was reminiscing about her listening to Moody Radio that day.
Yes, Haven Today, 5:30, right on this station.
And you heard something that piqued your interest.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what they were talking about, but they made a comment about how often couples will start viewing their spouse as their enemy.
And I bet someone is listening to that going, what?
Sure.
Because that might sound a little crazy on the surface.
Sounds a little intense.
But how did you interpret that? Did you feel like it was intense, or were you like,
No,
oh, I get it?
No, I didn't. No, I understood. That means you go into your house and your wife left the dishes in the sink, even though the dishwasher is empty. And your immediate response is, oh my gosh, she did this because she knows I hate when she doesn't put those dishes away. She did this just to be mean to me.
And you might not say it out loud, but you think it.
Yeah.
Or you feel it in your heart.
Or why would he leave these clothes in the middle of the floor? He wants me to pick these up. He knows that. Like, he's trying to make me do this work around the house for him.
Yeah. And that, do you think that counts as thinking of your spouse as an enemy?
Yeah, because you're always pitting yourself against them. Mm-hmm. It's always you versus your spouse, not you on the same team as your spouse.
Yeah, I think perhaps people make the definition of enemy too narrow, right? You think of, James Bond and, was it Golden Jaw or Iron Face?
Goldfinger and who else?
Yeah, it's not like Austin Powers and Dr. Evil here. We're just talking about the disposition you have, not necessarily viewing them as wicked.
You.
Yeah. And
everything in your life revolves around me versus my spouse. What I want, how I want my house to be run versus how they do. How I want my finances to be run versus how they want their finances to be run. How they parent the children versus how I want to parent the children.
And how whenever they make a different decision or do something, your presumption is their motive was somehow like sinister, like, I will get Lauren.
Yeah, they thought about how I don't like this and they did it on purpose. They did that on purpose because they know it bothers me. They are trying to bother me.
Now, I will be the first to admit that I have felt this before. Mm-hmm. And it seems like I'm not trying to say that this is a primary issue in your life, but it seems like you're speaking from experience in some way. Like you've thought it.
Yeah, I can see it's not a primary issue for us.
No,
but
I don't think
I can see ways where you're like, oh, he did this on purpose. He knows I hate that, and he did it on purpose.
Yeah, I think that would be probably a pretty common thing for someone to think at some point in their marriage relationship. Mm-hmm. But I think if it's a chronic problem, you're really going to run into issues.
Yeah, and I think we do hear of marriages where this is a chronic issue.
Now, the harder thing in this to me is to kind of snap out of it. Now, you could go all day thinking that you're justified. Look at this. She does this every day, and she knows I don't like it. And this is unfair, and I'm miserable. Blah, blah, blah. You think about all these things.
She
but
only
when
thinks about herself.
She's I don't know. But if you were to actually critically analyze from the outside, the presumption's ridiculous. That it would be as if, for lack of a better example, Eddie Cuevas, your husband, had a plate in his hand and thought, I could put it in the dishwasher, or I could hurt my wife. I will hurt her and put it in the sink. Ha!
I mean, people just don't think about you that much. Even your spouse. Right. They're not thinking about you unless you're right in front of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the selfish part of me wishes that wasn't true in life. But everyone's always thinking about themselves.
Yes.
They're not thinking about you. Who? Everybody. Like, as in, no one's thinking about you most of the day.
Right.
Especially your spouse. I know they love you very much, but when they're putting their plate away, maybe Eddie was dealing with one of the boys or somebody had a dirty diaper and he just was in a hurry. Or I don't think Eddie, who loves you very much, would ever think to himself,
right,
I have two choices. This one will make Lauren mad. Let me choose the one that makes Lauren mad.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say any relatively normal person
He doesn't want
would
to
never
make me
choose
mad.
that.
He doesn't want to make me mad. He doesn't want to inconvenience me if it's like not for a good purpose. He's not trying and wanting to inconvenience me. He doesn't want to see me in distress.
I feel like Ron and Daria probably think we're crazy. Like they've never thought these things before. They're quiet. So I'm like, uh-oh, this is a Lauren problem and a Brian problem.
There are times that I think, like, we've talked about this. Why does she continue to do this?
Yep.
She must not care about me. I don't know if I've gone as far to think she did it on purpose.
But you feel devalued because you brought it up.
Yeah.
And she didn't change immediately.
Yeah. She didn't pay attention. She doesn't care about me. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Guess I should go eat some worms.
I mean, I've had to really adjust my thinking about people who believe it's a great idea to take a broken down cardboard box from Amazon and just put it in the garbage can outside. Like that somehow is going to be helpful for everyone. There'll be plenty of room for all the rest of the garbage, and Dad will not have to reach in and take it out. It feels like they're all doing this to me on purpose. No one cares about Brian. They want him to suffer.
They don't think about Brian.
No, it's just...
They just are taking out the box.
Yeah, they're lazy.
I'm with you, Ron. They are being lazy, but they aren't doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. So how do we break the cycle? How do we get out of this? It's tough.
We have to not worry about others. We have to break the cycle within ourselves, because we can't really force the others to change, but they will more than likely change when they see the change in us.
I think if your marriage has devolved to the point where you think your spouse is intentionally trying to make you upset, that is a sign of a deeper issue, and you need possibly, either or. I think you need counseling for your marriage and possibly yourself.
Now, tell me if I'm crazy, but I think it's possible for a couple to devolve into this disposition and not realize they're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I think you could. I don't think most people or a lot of people are consciously saying or at least mentally, he did this to make me mad. But that might be kind of how you feel, whether you've put that phrase to it.
Yeah, like if somebody, and it might even sound like I feel so invisible in my home. I feel so lonely. I'm married, but I feel invisible and alone. They don't listen to me. They don't do things for me. They do things that make me upset. You think of it more like I am a victim of a crime here of some sort, a crime of love, rather than I'm viewing my spouse as an enemy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now it becomes more sinister, because once you decide you're a victim of some sort, because I am a victim of the cardboard box in the garbage can. I'm absolutely a victim of this. I will never be set free. I'm in bondage.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a little dramatic.
But
Quite.
when you think you're a victim, it's hard to get out of that mindset. I think there are people, as we talked about before, where you could be treating your spouse as an enemy, but not be consciously aware of it. A fair amount of the day, you're exasperated by your spouse because they are doing things that are driving you crazy. And at the end of the day, that's how you would view an enemy. But Lauren said in the break that, I didn't think of it this way, but there are probably couples that view it a little more overtly.
Yeah, I think there are people out there that really do despise their spouse and really do view their spouse as their enemy, like actually in their mind, not hidden in their actions or their thoughts. They actually do think that.
And you even commented, Daria, if you don't mind me saying, that sometimes I think those folks might be the Christian ones.
Yeah, I think so. We've talked about this before, where Christians they won't get divorced, but sometimes they won't get help either. And they think that, we're doing okay because we're not divorced. But that is literally the bare minimum for a marriage is we're still married. And that's not what God wants.
Yeah, if you think you're pleasing God by simply not getting divorced but hating each other.
But acting like you're not married or?
Yeah, then you've totally missed the point. You're actually violating the greatest commandment, to love your neighbor. So there you go. Take that.
The neighbor that's in your house.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, too, if, I think this can fester into more, but I'm wondering if part of the root problem is assuming your spouse is just there to serve you and do whatever I want because my way is the best way.
I think that's an easy way for that to develop. And it's an easy one to get stuck in, right? Especially, I think, people who grew up in a rigid household, a very authoritarian household. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. I've heard of people who their parents required them to fold clothes a particular way and put them away a certain way, and they would check it. If it was wrong, they'd pull the drawer out and dump it on the floor and say, do it over again.
Yeah.
So the idea that that person thinks there's one way to do things kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so they could get frustrated by someone who disagrees and doesn't obey.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not doing it on purpose.
No, I mean, there are multiple valid ways to do things. Your spouse is also a human. I mean, I get frustrated sometimes that Jimmy leaves things around. I leave things around too. It's not just a him problem. I forget about them. I'm feeling lazy in the moment. I mean,
but you don't see
But my
it.
things are important
yeah, exactly.
that I leave around.
That's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
I had a
I'm
good
gonna use
reason
it.
for leaving that there.
I'm going to use that later.
I didn't. It was probably the exact one he did, which was he didn't feel like getting up from the couch, and then he forgot it was there.
But in the moment, we don't think like that. In the moment, we go, I've told that Eddie Cuevas.
I said I was going to come back for that.
Yeah. So what do you say to the couple that is the overt enemy? Like they literally are just living a lie. They're Christians that won't get divorced because they're Christians, but they literally hate their spouse.
Your spouse is not your enemy. You have a real enemy, and it is not your spouse.
Yeah. And I don't think that person maybe knows that they're sinning so badly. Like you.
Yeah, you're not loving your neighbor. You're not loving your spouse. Your marriage is supposed to reflect Christ in the church. And you living out a marriage that you hate your spouse, you're living out a reality that would say Christ hates the church. And that's not true.
I think you're actually you're already divorced. You just haven't bothered to file the paperwork because you are mentally and emotionally, and sometimes physically. Sometimes you end up just living in separate bedrooms, completely separate lives. You are completely disconnected from this person.
And your view of God is so small that you think you're tricking him. That, look at me, God,
still
I'm not
married.
divorced, so you're ignoring my marriage.
We're still married.
And you probably don't enjoy this marriage.
Right. You're not having a good time.
And maybe you look back and you think, I wish it was like we used to be. Well, take a tip from the movie Fireproof with Kirk Cameron.
The last movie you saw,
Yeah.
Before Conclave.
other than Conclave.
Yeah. But his marriage was in a situation where they were estranged.
Yeah.
And
Seemed impossible.
the father-in-law or father, one of them, somebody took him aside and said, look, it's your fault. You've got to work on this. So for the next 30 days, do things to show your wife that you love her. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage you, if you are in a marriage where you feel like we're enemies and you don't want it to be that way, then change it.
Yeah, you can get help.
Yeah, you do things to show that you still love your spouse. And they'll be surprised at first, and they'll think maybe there's a booby trap waiting if I accept this. You know, you cooked a nice meal. Well, is it poison? But eventually they will come around, and you might get things back to where they were.
I think there's a good chance that your spouse feels the same way, and you both just become so stuck in this rut. You both think the other is happy when neither of you are happy.
That's right. Yeah, we convince ourselves they have no
They
clue.
like it like this.
They don't know it's bad. Or,
They like not speaking to me.
or we're just both content. No, we're both miserable.
Yeah, what a bunch of lies we're telling
You
ourselves.
got married for a reason.
You liked each other at one point.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, what's amazing to me is how easy it is as a married couple, people that love each other, you've committed to each other, to not say stuff, to not talk about a feeling.
Life gets busy. Life gets hard. You kind of get used to the person being there.
Like Julie Slattery would tell you, one of the biggest obstacles in marriage with intimacy is actually talking about it. There's people who've been married for 50 years and have never once spoken about it.
Yeah.
Now, I think the same could be true for this situation, where you're harboring some pretty angry, enemy-type feelings toward your spouse. You know what the first step is to fixing it? Scheduling a time to sit down with them and look at them and go, I'm worried. I know I love you, but I think I'm starting to view you as an enemy, and I don't want to do that. That's scary.
That's scary.
Yep.
I mean, years ago, Sarah and I had a time where we looked at each other and we took turns saying, I love you, but I really don't like you very much.
Yeah.
And the other person said, yeah, I love you too, and I really don't like you either. Now what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
That is hard. But that's how you begin to actually change something.
Yeah, you have to talk about it. It's never going to get fixed by not talking about it.
It'll get worse. It'll fester. I mean, you grumbling in your head,
Doesn't change anything.
nor is it any different than outright yelling at your spouse. Like, again, we trick ourselves as Christians into thinking if we just keep it inside of our brains and don't verbalize it, we're somehow not sinning. No, Jesus made that pretty clear. You hate your brother in your heart, you've already murdered him.
Yeah.
Yep.
So every day when you're grumbling in your heart about your spouse and you're thinking that they're out to get you and that they're your enemy, you're murdering them in your heart. How do you feel now?
Yeah.
Say something. How do you get the courage to say it, though? It's probably the scariest thing on earth.
I'm sure. I'm sure it's really, that sounds
It's
very
risky.
scary.
It's risky. Maybe they hate you so much that they're going to leave you if you say it.
Yeah, or you've been feeling like you hate them and you've assumed that they hate you too, and then you're scared that, wait, maybe they don't hate me and I've just been hating them.
And they're
And
desperately trying to get me to love them.
Yeah, and now I'm going to destroy our marriage. Already destroyed because you hate them.
Well, and at the end of the day, I mean, you have to believe us or not, but I think oftentimes after you do something scary and be honest and maybe break something a little bit, it's going to get even better when you repair it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, I forget what it's called, the ancient Japanese style of art where you intentionally break a pot
Yeah.
and you rebuild it
Yeah.
with gold
Mm-hmm.
as the,
Solder.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's called something really cool that sophisticated people know. People like me just call it that thing in Japan where you break stuff.
Yeah, there's not much worse than you can get in a marriage than hating each other. So,
You really don't have anything to lose at that point, and a lot to potentially gain.
yeah.
Yes.
You might say, well, I don't hate my spouse. I'm just annoyed they won't listen to me ever, and I feel like they're out to get me. That's an enemy. That's an enemy.
Someone who's out to get you, that's an enemy.
And again, the last case would be go get counseling. If you don't think you can do it, you don't have the courage to do it, get a marriage counselor, get a personal counselor, do something. Talk to your pastor, call your best friend. Get it out, or it's going to destroy your marriage. And I think it'll be dishonoring of what the Lord intended a marriage to be, which is a reflection of Christ in his church. And we're designed to be reflections and ambassadors of Christ to people around us. You don't get a pass in your marriage. And someone reminded me it's called kintsugi.
Ah,
The
yes.
throwing pottery, breaking pottery.
It's when you break stuff and make it back better with the gold. I like my explanation better.